So, dann bin ich jetzt live. Hallo, herzlich willkommen zu einer weiteren Ausgabe von Zero Escape, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. Mal schauen, wer sich so im Laufe der Zeit dann findet, was Zuschauerschaft angeht. Es geht weiter mit unserem kleinen, mit diesem Revisit einer meiner absoluten Lieblingsspielereien. Und ich glaube, ich bin ein bisschen. Okay, ich muss ein kleines bisschen an der Empfindlichkeit drehen. So, wir machen da weiter, wo wir letztes Mal aufgehört haben. Und ja, da können wir auch mal kurz ins Flowchart schauen. Moment, nein, das wollte ich nicht. Hier, um zu schauen, wo wir sind. Nämlich kurz vor einer nächsten Entscheidung. Und das ist tatsächlich auch wieder sehr, sehr schön. Ich bin gespannt, für was wir uns denn entscheiden. Aber erstmal schaue ich, dass sich jemand, wie soll man sagen, dass sich vielleicht jemand im Chat schon mal bemerkbar macht. Hoffe ich einfach mal, dass es so passiert. Ich sehe zumindest, es freut sich jemand darauf, dann beim VOD sich das Ganze nachher anzusehen oder als VOD. Falls ihr euch das hier als VOD anguckt, dann, hallo, geht auch, aber naja. Oh, Moment, ich muss kurz gehen. Verzeiht, mein Schlafrhythmus ist einfach in letzter Zeit völlig im Eimer. Naja. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room.
Hey! Where the hell did you guys go?
Das war, wo wir letztes Mal aufgehört haben. It was Seven.
7?
Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back.
What's wrong?
Kurz zur Erinnerung, die sind letztens nochmal durch die Tür Nummer 3 gegangen. It looked as though there was something strange about them. Seven had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For a long moment they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at Seven.
What happened?
What the hell kind of question is that?
Seven was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained.
Snake is...
Seven couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by... Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke.
Snake is dead. He died, just as the 9th man did.
Und jetzt die Musik. Jetzt stellt euch mir vor, ihr spielt dieses Spiel ursprünglich in der normalen Version auf dem DS, nicht in der Steam-Version. Und es gibt keine Vertonung, sondern nur diese Hintergrundmusik in dem Moment, wenn die Charaktere reden. Oh. It was as if the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beading on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All three were frozen in place, their faces white.
Oh my god, that's not true, is it? We should make sure.
Yeah, right. We should.
They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door.
Wait, not that way.
What? Why not?
They stopped short and turned to look at Seven. He was pointing at the door with no number.
I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way.
Where is he?
The shower room, on the left side of the hallway. I put a broom in there too to keep the door open.
That means we can get in without going through the numbered door, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Then let's go.
Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall.
This wasn't open when we passed here before.
But now, just as Seven had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open.
Well, let's keep going.
They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside.
Oh, it smells horrible.
Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut.
Ugh, yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke.
It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged.
Where is he? Where's Snake?
They didn't have to wonder where the body was.
There.
There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. Verdammt. Ausgerechnet in dramatischen Situationen verlese ich mich. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider.
June, you should stay here.
But
Please, just do me a favor, okay? Alright?
He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned, and walked toward the end of the divider.
I'm going in.
It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hands on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in the great Red Sea. A vast ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Sehr lebhafte Beschreibung. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it.
Just like Ace said.
Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own.
Just like the ninth man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut.
It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful.
Oh god. The bone is coming out of his left arm.
It's definitely an open fracture.
His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna. Ulna ist, glaube ich, die Speiche. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces.
Oh, the face. It's horrible.
Yeah, you can't even tell who it is.
Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the grey slacks.
But the clothes are...
They were all familiar to Junpei.
No mistake about it. It's Snake.
Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. Ja, und jetzt wissen wir, was mit Snake passiert ist. Wobei es da auch tatsächlich schon eine relativ subtile Sache gab, die man wissen oder auf die man hätte reagieren können. Ich werde aber nicht groß verraten, was. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed the same way the Ninth Man was.
Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and continued.
It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it. Alone. And waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was all over for Snake. But he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator is only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. Snake was the only one who went through the door. And then, 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened.
I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer.
Yeah.
Ja, und da kann man sich jetzt schon mal was überlegen.
That means we're looking at multiple perps here.
Junpei crossed his arms and grunted.
Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed?
When we all split up to look for the parts for the Reds, I think. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone.
Then that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts.
Yeah. That means anybody could be a killer.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
June seemed shocked.
How can you say that so casually? You're implying that one of us is a killer.
Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers.
Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know?
What Zero wants?
Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory.
Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other?
Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another, and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations.
Then does that mean that the person who killed Snake...
Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well?
Good question.
Junpei hadn't really considered that.
If Zero killed Snake, then Zero is on the ship with us.
Junpei... Was Zero still on the ship with them? Das ist jetzt die Frage. Gut, es ist jetzt gerade leider niemand im Chat, das heißt, ich werde die Sache, die wir jetzt antworten, auswürfeln. Aber trotzdem, die Frage ist natürlich jetzt wirklich, war das einfach jemand anders? Jemand, dem quasi nicht, oder der nicht an die Regeln gebunden ist? Oder waren das wirklich Leute aus dem Team? Und wenn ja, wer? Also man kann dann ja mit den Nummern schon Überlegungen anstellen, ne? Ich bin mal gespannt, ob es dazu Kommentare gibt. Wer das gewesen sein könnte. Ich mach's ja nicht blind, ich kenne ja das Spiel, ich kenne die Story und weiß, wer das war. Aber trotzdem. Schauen wir jetzt erstmal, was wir antworten. Of course. Of course he was. That was obvious.
But I don't...
Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought.
Where could Zero be hiding?
Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting, moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone.
I think Zero is one of us.
Tja, wenn das stimmt, ist die Frage, wer? Und das ist immer das Schöne an diesem Spiel oder an dieser Spielreihe, dass solche Sachen aufkommen und man sich dann die ganze Zeit fragt, wer ist es denn, wer ist es denn, wer ist es denn? Und das ist interessant. Und wenn da schon mal Ideen kommen, bin ich gespannt. Aber einfach mal schauen. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Was he one of them? Well, that's possible, oder that's crazy. Wieder entscheidet der Würfel. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Isn't this ship going to sink in a few hours? If Zero was here with us, he'd be putting himself in danger. Why the hell would he do something like that? There's no motive.
Clover looked up at Junpei and her face fell.
You don't believe me.
Her eyes were so pitiful. The moment Junpei's met them, he felt his heart tighten. So, ich muss auch das Richtige vorlesen. He didn't think what he said was wrong. But perhaps the way he'd said it had been. He'd been too insensitive. Clover had just lost her brother. His death would have been bad enough, but she'd also seen the blasted wreck of his body. Junpei barely knew him, and the sight had been enough to make him sick. What Clover had felt, he couldn't begin to imagine. In the mental state she must have been in, it was understandable that she would look at those around her with suspicion. She felt everyone was against her. The least Junpei could have done was try to understand what she was feeling. He felt ashamed of what he'd said. Perhaps he thought, I should apologize. But before that apology could begin...
Clover,
Clover, I understand what you're feeling. You don't feel that you can trust any of us.
Ace had beaten Junpei to the punch. As he spoke to Clover, his face was calm and friendly.
But you have to understand. The more we distrust one another, the further we fall into our true foe's trap. Zero was the one who did those horrible things to your brother. Do you want to let yourself be manipulated by someone who would do such a horrible thing?
Clover didn't answer. She didn't even look at Ace. The whole time her eyes were on Junpei. He could feel Clover's eyes boring into him. They were the color of a deep winter lake. Junpei saw no suspicion in them, only sadness. Then, in that horrible silence, they heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase.
It's 3 in the morning.
That means we have 3 hours left.
Then we need to move now. 7. Clover, I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you?
7 and Clover remained silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away.
We must go. We have very little time left.
Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going.
Our next destination is Mercury.
But maybe you and June should check it out first and then report back to us.
Tja, und da sind wir jetzt an einem sehr interessanten Punkt. Also, wir wissen jetzt, was mit Snake passiert ist. Wie gesagt, es gibt ein kleines, subtiles Element da in diesem ganzen Ding drin. Wenn das jemandem aufgefallen ist, sehr schön. Das Spiel belohnt einen sehr dafür, dass man aufmerksam ist bei entsprechenden Gesprächen und sich an bestimmte Dinge erinnert. Aber es ist natürlich trotzdem ein sehr dramatischer Moment in dem Fall. Und eine Kleinigkeit werde ich jetzt kurz machen. Ich habe nämlich gar nicht getestet, ob der Sound eigentlich vernünftig ist. Das heißt, gebt mir einen winzigen Moment, ob man mich eigentlich vernünftig hört, weil es ist ja auch jemand im Chat, der mich überprüfen kann. Deshalb mache ich dem mal kurz einfach ein bisschen Sound hier an. Aber okay, das klingt gut. Es ist natürlich trotzdem wunderbar. Das ist in dem Fall kein Problem. Das heißt, der Sound läuft. Zack, gut. Das musste ich einmal kurz überprüfen. Hatte ich ganz vergessen. Aber weiter. Mal schauen, ob noch irgendwer dazukommt. Immer wieder sehe ich so einen Zuschauer im Chat, aber dann sind die Leute meistens auch sehr schnell wieder weg, weil das ist ja doch ein ziemliches Spatenspiel hier. Das ist nicht für jedermann was, aber ich finde die Geschichte einfach so geil. Ach ja, ich liebe solche Spiele, die einfach eine gute Narrative aufbauen können. Und das ist eine Sache, die leider nur viel zu selten ist. Und ich verstehe auch, warum für viele dann das Zusehen da weniger interessant ist, als beispielsweise bei einem League-Game oder sowas, wo halt viel Action passiert. Aber das hier ist was anderes. Das hier ist mehr ein Thriller also vor allem so Psychothriller, als zum Beispiel jetzt ein Actionfilm oder so. Und wenn man bedenkt, wo die meisten Leute reinrennen, das sind halt auch meistens mehr die Action-Spektakel. Und das hier ist halt kein Action-Spektakel, das hier ist mehr so subtiler Slow-Burner, was vieles angeht. Und ich mag das sehr.
All right, let's go, June.
Right. Here it is.
It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen between the two elevators.
The Mercury card reader.
We're using the card 7 gave us, right?
Yeah,
I found it when we were checking out the shower room.
I think 7 said something like that. Anyway, let's see what happens.
Junpei slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise.
I guess the elevator works now.
Jumpy, I know it's only the two of us, but let's do our best.
What's with you all of a sudden?
Well, I'm happy we were put together.
You know it's just for searching E-Deck, right?
Even so, I'm glad I'm with you.
Oh. First, we need to find out if the elevator comes up full of water.
Just like we did before.
Oh, here it is.
I knew it. It's not wet at all.
Let's go.
Yes.
Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and June stepped into the elevator.
Look! Nearly all of the buttons are destroyed.
Yeah, only the seat and bottom button can be pushed.
We're on C deck right now, so the only one we can choose is bottom.
Yeah. Well, let's try it out.
Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Slowly they began to move downward.
Oh, so this is the bottom deck.
They stepped off and saw that the hallway to their right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. But not a regular dead end.
Hey, over there.
This is a numbered door.
This is the 8th one we found. There were 2 numbered doors on B deck near the central staircase. They were doors 4 and 5. 3 more in the large hospital room. Doors 3, 7, and 8.
And the door we found on E deck, and the door Lotus and Santa found on A deck. It was a 6 on the door on E deck, and a 1 on the door on A deck.
4, 5, 3, 7, 8, 6, 1. And now door 2 stood in front of Junpei.
That means...
Do you think the next door we find?
Yeah, I think so. The next one's gonna be door 9.
Despite himself, Junpei felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as well.
Finally!
Yeah,
You don't look very happy about it, though.
it's not that. I just hope nothing goes wrong.
You're right. We should keep our fingers crossed.
Let's head back.
Okay.
He did his best to put it from his mind and headed back to C deck with June.
One, two, three, four. All right, 7 pieces.
The pieces of paper they'd folded up lay on the ground next to Junpei's legs. Everyone had written on paper and on a paper pulled from Junpei's notebook in an effort to pull together a blind vote.
Just double checking, but everyone wrote their code name and a door number they want, right?
Yes, just like you told us earlier.
Can't believe we're voting here.
Why had they decided to vote that way?
We need to make the whole thing fair, blah-de-blah. This is a complicated plan, you know. Hurry it up, Mr. I have a brilliant idea.
They decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. That would allow people to force others to go through certain doors.
Yeah, quiet in the peanut gallery.
And he had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of, however, so he did his best to calm as he began to open and read the pieces of paper.
All right, let's open these up. The first one says, Ace requests door 1.
Yes, I do. Would you like me to explain why?
No, we don't have time for that. Sorry. Let's keep going.
He opened the second one.
Next is Santa. He wants door 6.
Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Junpei continued with the third, fourth, and fifth pieces of paper.
Clover wants 1, Lotus wants 2, and 7 also wants 2.
Wait a minute. There is no way I'm going anywhere with the Elephant Man.
No, there'd be no point to the voting if we let people change their choices because of stuff like that.
But... no.
Just give it up, Lotus. It's not like I want to hang out with some exhibitionist grandma.
Dieser Spruch. Ach, ich mag die Interaktion zwischen den beiden.
I am not an exhibitionist. I'm wearing clothes.
Barely.
So, last I checked, that's not a crime.
Hat sie nicht Unrecht mit. Trotzdem ist es natürlich ein bisschen sehr knapp.
Maybe. But what about common decency? Nobody wants to have to look at a chick who looks like a half-naked raisin.
Ach, ich liebe diese Interaktion. Lotus, die halbnackte Rosine. Ich glaube, so muss ich die Folge umbenennen. Ach, schön.
Oh, I'm gonna kill you!
Lotus's hair flared out like the mane of an angry lion,
Oh, not good.
and she roared with a voice that shook the walls.
Let go! Let go of me! I'm killing him!
With some difficulty, Ace managed to restrain her.
Junpei, read the rest.
Right.
Junpei tore his eyes away and looked down at the sixth piece of paper. He opened it.
June wants door 6.
Yes, I don't really have a reason. I just felt like it.
All of the papers save Junpei's had been read. He did some quick calculations in his head.
So this was everyone's vote. Ace and Clover requested door 1.
This was the door on A deck near the central staircase.
7 and Lotus requested door 2.
This was the door on the bottom deck and could be reached by taking the elevator down to the bottom of the ship.
Santa and June requested door 6.
This was the door on E deck and could be reached by taking the elevator near the central staircase down.
Then the door I should choose is...
It took him less than a second to run the numbers. He opened the seventh piece of paper and spoke.
Okay, the last one is mine. I want to go through...
Und jetzt kann man das hier wieder auswählen und wie gesagt, wenn niemand sich meldet, dann würfel ich das halt. Aber ja, man kann da theoretisch berechnen, wie man wie durchkommt und wer verzichten muss unter Umständen, aber eine Sache, die ich mal anmerken wollte. Wenn wir einfach mal bedenken, welche Türen haben wir wann gefunden? Und da einfach mal das durchgehen, also auch mit der Wurzel bzw. dem, es ist, glaube ich, die radikale Quersumme heißt es im Deutschen. Ich bin mir nicht ganz sicher, wenn man halt immer bis auf eine einzelne Zahl runter geht. Die ersten 2, die wir gefunden haben, waren 4 und 9. Nicht 4 und 9, 4 und 5. Ergibt zusammen 9. Die nächsten 3, die wir gefunden haben, waren 3, 7 und 8, wenn ich mich recht erinnere. Ja, 3, 7 und 8. Ist 18, radikal 9. Und hier 1, 2 und 6 ist wieder 9. Da kann man sich jetzt natürlich fragen, warum eigentlich? Und die Antwort ist ziemlich simpel. Weil egal wie man die Zahlen der Gruppe aufteilt, von 1 bis 9 zumindest, ist es so, dass das immer, wenn man alles zusammen addiert, eine 9 ergeben wird. Und so kann man, wenn theoretisch alle da sind, die auch in Dreiergruppen auf alle Türen aufteilen. Es sind nur nicht mehr alle da. Aber gut, würfeln wir. Eine 5. Also ich habe eine 5 gewürfelt, also ich habe gesagt 1 bis 2 ist das, 3 und 4 ist das und 5 und 6 ist das, also Tür 6.
I want to go through door 6.
Junpei flipped open the piece of paper. It read Junpei, door 6. Of course it did. He'd written it after all.
That's a problem.
June spoke barely above a whisper, but they all knew what she'd said.
None of these teams will be able to go through the doors they want.
Clover and I chose door 1.
Lotus and I chose door 2.
That's not enough people to open a numbered door, however.
The digital routes don't match up either.
We've got similar problems. Junpei and I want to go through door 6. But our digital route is 5. If we're gonna open that door, we need a 1.
Damn, what are we gonna do now?
What are we going to do?
Junpei crossed his arms and did his best to put his thoughts in order. The others followed suit, but with little result. Eventually, Clover broke the silence.
Why don't Seven and Lotus go through door 1? With me.
Her face was cold and flat, as was her voice, but her logic was sound. Seven and Lotus looked at each other. 7 plus 8 plus 4 equals 19. 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. The first problem resolved. Ace spoke up.
What about me?
Isn't that obvious? Wasn't one of the teams just complaining that they didn't have a 1?
You mean I should join Santa's team?
Yes.
Clover nodded, her face still cold and emotionless. Her attitude and posture could not have been more different than the energetic girl of only a few hours before. No one seemed ready to contradict her. Her response was understandable, given the horrible situation in which she had found herself, but even so.
Huh. I understand. I'll go through door 6 then. If we do as Clover has suggested, we can all pass through a numbered door and no one will be left behind. This seems to be the most reasonable solution.
3 plus 6 plus 5 plus 1 equals 15, 1 plus 5 equals 6.
7, Lotus. What do you guys think?
I don't have a problem with it.
Me either.
Alright then, we're good to go.
See you later.
Wait, Clover! Don't move on your own!
Oh, I'll be going too then.
Yeah, be careful.
We should get going as well.
At last, Junpei and the other 6 had managed to separate themselves into 2 teams. Clover, 7 and Lotus headed to A deck, where door 1 near the main door 1 was near the main staircase. So, ich muss auch richtig vorlesen. Junpei, June, Ace and Santa, however, took the elevator to E deck. The ride to E deck was a silent one.
This is E deck.
There should be a door at the end of the hall.
Alright, let's go.
Santa's words jolted them to action, and they stepped out of the elevator into a long, straight hallway. Before long, they arrived in front of door 6.
Here it is. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Then let's get to it.
One by one, they put their palms over the red. With a soft electronic noise, it authenticated each of them. The door opened, and all at once the 4 of them leapt through it.
Hey! I found it! It's right there!
Fortunately, the dead was located easily enough. This one had been placed quite close to the door they'd entered through. They gathered around it quickly and hurriedly placed their palms on it for authentication one by one.
It stopped.
Yes! It stopped!
The countdown had ceased, but Junpei's heart was still pounding in his chest like a frantic, thunderous drum. It felt as though it might shake itself up and out of his throat.
Whew. I don't believe I'll ever get used to that.
I'm not sure it's something I'd want to get used to. We should finish this game before imminent death becomes a normal thing.
You got that right. Once I'm out of this hellhole, I'm taking a nice long vacation.
I agree.
With that, the doom and gloom from before was gone. It was done, and the mood turned somewhat lighter.
Alright, let's go.
With that attempt at good humor, Junpei took a deep breath and began to walk. He jogged down the stairs at the end of the hallway and found himself staring at a large door.
This door looks heavy.
But it's not locked. I'm opening it.
He took hold of the bar that served as its doorknob and shoved it down. The room beyond stopped him in his tracks. It was gargantuan and made entirely of metal. None of the accents of wood or tile he'd seen in the rest of the ship. This room was purely functional, but utterly tremendous.
Whoa, what the hell is this?
Santa got out a few words before Awe stole the rest of them. The rest were too stunned to offer anything more than gasps.
This has to be the biggest room so far. The ceiling is pretty high, too.
Huh. Could be 2 stories, maybe even more.
This space could be utilizing the entire length of the ship.
What's that huge Kamaboko-looking building in the middle?
June pointed to the massive building in the center.
Kamaboko? Well, I guess that's as good of a description of it as any.
Junpei and the others were standing on scaffolding that crisscrossed the whole area. The proper term was catwalk. Junpei thought, although that didn't seem particularly important.
I see stairs, so we may as well head over to them.
Yeah, but this section's barely wide enough to fit 1 person.
You're right.
Nearby was a long iron staircase that made its way eventually to the floor beneath them.
Whoa, you can't even tell the shape when you're this close.
Let's check out the other side, too.
They moved around towards the opposite side of the massive building, following the catwalk. They hadn't said much as they walked, but as they approached the building, Ace suddenly spoke up.
This looks to be the steam engine room.
The steam engine room?
Yes, that thing that looks like a cross-section of a mushroom is the boiler. Do you see the 3 round doors near the bottom? Coal is put into those and burned, which heats the water, producing steam. The same thing that drives a steam engine. This one is simply somewhat larger.
I see.
It doesn't appear to be running right now.
The entire room was as silent as the grave.
All right, let's split up.
Then all of a sudden Junpei heard a noise behind him. He turned just in time to see June collapse to her knees.
Hey, what's wrong? Are you all right?
He dashed toward her and wrapped his arm around her shoulders to steady her.
Hey, June.
It was then that he noticed.
Jumpy.
You're really warm. Is your fever coming back?
Yes, it probably is. But I'm fine. Please, don't worry about me. I just need to rest. And I'll be fine.
Her voice was weak and forced, and it said a great deal more than her words did.
Okay. Here, sit down. Careful.
Junpei carried her to the nearest wall and propped her up against it. She let her head fall back against the wall as if she no longer had the strength to support it, and drew a ragged breath.
Thank you.
Her eyes were empty, as if she was having trouble focusing them, and even speaking seemed difficult for her. Junpei felt his hand ball itself into a fist and clenched tight, his knuckles whitening. He had to find a way out, and quickly. He turned and looked at Ace and Santa in turn.
Ace, Santa.
Yes.
Right.
They might not have shared the depth of his emotion, but they certainly shared his concern.
All right, let's get started. Hang in there, June. I'm gonna get you out of here real soon.
She managed a small nod before leaning back to rest her head on the wall. Und damit sind wir wieder bei einem Escape Room. Und das ist der mit Abstand größte im Spiel. A tunnel. It goes all the way across the ship. Look at that button. It's glowing orange, right? That's gotta mean something. I guess pressing it is the best way to find out if it does anything, Santa. Nothing. It's a square hole. Nothing in here. Ah, look at the back wall there. I can see 3 small slots. Terminals for some sort of connector, perhaps. You mean you think we're supposed to plug something in here? Perhaps. This pillar goes up toward the ceiling. So, drehen wir uns mal um. Wir können hier nämlich eine Menge angucken. Beginnen wir mal hier. Oh, ein Rad. A golden gear. It doesn't look like it was always golden like this. Well, then I imagine it was prepared especially for this game. This gear is rusty, but it looks like it's still pretty sturdy. The conveyor belt runs into a sort of arched tunnel. Das einzige Problem, was ich hier wirklich mit diesem Raum habe, ist die Orientierung zu behalten. I believe this opening is for fueling the furnace. If we were to put some coal in here and ignite it, then the steam engine might start working? It's certainly possible. Es würde nur wahrscheinlich erstmal ein bisschen dauern, bis die Maschine angelaufen ist. Stairs stretch from the catwalk to the boiler. There are a number of these little windows along the inside of this thing. I think you're supposed to put coal in through these. They're welded shut. I don't think we can get these open. Okay, hier sehen wir nochmal entsprechend das. Moment. A huge bronze gear. This has to be important. Wir hatten eben Gold. Das Ding ist Bronze. Und hier? Golden geared. I have a feeling it's important. Und da hinten? It's a silver gear. Do you think it's made of pure silver? No way. Silver's way too soft to use for a gear. Gilt für Gold übrigens auch. It's gotta be steel or iron gear that's been coated with silver. Shouldn't have called it a silver gear then. Shouldn't have got your hopes up. Were you thinking you'd haul this thing back? Nah, but I think 7 could probably carry it, don't you? So stark ist er dann mit Sicherheit auch nicht. There are a bunch of wooden boxes over here by the wall. I already looked through those. There's nothing there. So, hier können wir theoretisch nach oben. Stairs to the upper floor. They're connected to the boiler. Ja gut, dann gehen wir einfach mal hoch. Was haben wir denn hier? The slider is down. Well, let's see if I can get this thing to go anywhere. Man. No dice. This thing isn't going anywhere. Das hier vielleicht? 3 sliders on the left are down, but this one is up. There are a number of lines engraved on these. I suspect we are meant to do something rather specific with them. Junpei, why don't you move that slider down? Well, there's no harm in trying, I suppose. Nothing, Nothing happened. Maybe it needs to be prepared somehow. You're saying if we did something somewhere else, it'd respond somehow? Yes, I suppose that's one way of putting it. Sonst können wir uns hier nicht groß was ansehen. I can see an iron gate. It looks pretty sturdy. Also weiter nach oben. Hier kann man sich dann auch wieder ein bisschen umsehen. We aren't gonna get anywhere with a pile of boxes here. What the hell's in these things anyway? They're way too heavy to move. Hey Junpei, where are you going? The only thing in there is a closed numbered door. Kinda pointless to go back, huh? Yeah, it sure is. Also da geht's zurück. Looks like there's a few more doors over there. These boxes are going to make things difficult. Perhaps we should use the scaffolding instead. Alright. One of the doors on the furnace. There's an A on it. There's a circular wheel in the center of the door. Alright, let's give that sucker a twist. Well, it's noisy, but it opens. And it's totally pitch black in there. We should go in there. Alright. Let's go. This looks just like the door we went into. Where are we? We must be on the other side, yes? Which would put us directly above the conveyor belt. At any rate, we should keep moving. There's a great deal we've yet to investigate. Das heißt, hier können wir dann auch mal durch C, aber wir können hier dann noch mal sehen, there are a number of boxes on the catwalk. I don't think we can go over there. Well, anyway, it looks like that's a pipe. Looks like the bottom connects to the conveyor belt housing. Then coal must come out of this pipe onto the conveyor belt. In other words, there must be a great deal of coal in that pipe. Hier haben wir wieder sowas. There are a whole bunch of boxes in my way. I can't get through. An C sind wir doch eben nicht rangekommen. Und jetzt sind wir nämlich hier, wo wir vorher nicht hin konnten. The furnace for the enormous boiler. It says C on this door. It looks like a hand-operated winch. But it doesn't look like there's any way to operate it. That means the wheel isn't attached. This damn pile of boxes is blocking my way. One of the great metal ribs of the ship. I think June's resting right underneath it. There's a wooden box on the end of the rope hanging from the winch. It looks like there's something in the box. Das Problem ist, hier können wir dann erstmal noch nicht viel machen. Wir müssen also einmal hier durch, zurück. Dann gehen wir mal hier durch. Stimmt, hier landen wir dann hinter den Kisten. Und auch bei dem Ding. Ach nee, bei einem anderen. This winch looks like the other one we saw earlier. Although this one has a wheel on it. Alright, let's give this wheel a spin. What? That's weird. I don't feel any resistance. Ah! Oh shit. Wir haben ein Rad. It's a wheel that seems to be part of the winch. There are some pegs on the back that look like they go into the holes on the winch. Okay. Good job, genius, you broke it. I didn't break it. It broke all by itself. Wir können uns leider nicht ansehen, was da sonst noch ist, aber damit haben wir immerhin eine Sache, die wir brauchen können. Dann also wieder durch A. Ach nee, Quatsch. Durch. One of the doors on the furnace, there's a C on it. Ach, ich kann immer nur hier durch A und dann auf der anderen Seite durch C? Oder wie war das? So. The hand-operated winch. There's no wheel to turn. Oh yeah, I've got the wheel I pulled up the other winch, don't I? Let's see if it fits. Sweet, it's a perfect fit. Like they were made for each other. Not shaky at all. Good, I should be able to turn this now. Good work, Junpei. We should be able to haul up the wooden box now. You see? The wooden box. It's under the catwalk. Can you see it? It's hanging from the rope on the winch, isn't it? It looks like there's some sort of device in the box. I'm not sure what it is. At any rate, you might as well turn that wheel now. I'm counting on you. Okay. Alright, I'll turn the wheel. Huh? What's this? What happened? This wheel only turns to the left. It only turns to the left. That means we can't reel up that rope. Yeah, You can only let the rope down. Interesting. I don't think that will be a problem. We will simply need to go downstairs after letting the wooden box down. I will be counting on you, Junpei. Sure thing, no sweat.
I believe the box has reached the floor.
Und es gibt noch mal ein kleines Gespräch tatsächlich. Ich trinke mal kurz einen Schluck Wasser. Ist nämlich gerade dringend nötig.
Yeah.
He stuck his head out of the side of the catwalk and looked down. The box that had only recently hung just below the catwalk now sat on the floor. It had come to rest near the end of the tunnel that covered the conveyor belt.
June's down over by there.
Junpei could see her still leaning against the wall as if she barely had the strength to sit up. Even from so far away, it was not difficult to see that she had not improved. He almost thought he could see heat rising from her body.
She doesn't seem to be improving.
Ace's expression was inscrutable, but he'd said what they all had been thinking.
Well, of course not. She's not gonna just get better right away, you know? It'll take time.
He tried desperately to convince himself that what he'd said was true.
What could be causing this, I wonder? Illness, perhaps?
Nah, it's gotta be exhaustion.
Santa's response was confident and certain.
She gets dropped into some weird-ass ship, forced to play some messed-up game. If you think about it, it's a lot weirder that we aren't freaking out just like her, you know?
So you're saying we're abnormal?
Yeah. We're just running around this room, solving all these puzzles like it's just business as usual. How the hell could you call that normal? We're just guinea pigs.
Santa snorted in disgust.
A guinea pig? You mean like a lab rat? You mean we're being used for some sort of experiment? Is that what you're saying?
Dunno. But it does seem like a possibility, you know?
They stood there for a few more minutes, no one speaking, until Santa turned and walked away from the winch. Junpei and Ace followed him.
You know, speaking of experiments,
Santa suddenly stopped.
there was this experiment some scientists did with rats. First, they took a squarish C-shaped tank and filled it with enough water that the rats could drown in it. The tank has 2 exits. Just to make it easy, we'll call one A and the other B. Exit A is pitch black, so dark even a rat can't see anything. But exit B is electrified, which means the rat can't leave through it. So, what would a rat do if it was put in this situation? Which exit would the rat choose?
There was a moment of silence after Santa posed the question, and then Ace responded.
B, of course. The rat has no way of knowing that exit B is electrified.
Exactly. The rat goes to exit B. Of course, like I said, it's electrified, which means the rat can't get out that way. So, after a lot of trial and error, the rat finally finds exit A.
I can't say that's very interesting or relevant. It's simply the story of a laboratory experiment.
You're right. It isn't very interesting. Yet. See, these scientists repeated this experiment over and over, using hundreds of different rats over several generations. This produced some surprising results. With each generation, the rats took less time to find the correct exit. Eventually, a rat was put in the tank who instantly chose exit A without even attempting to go to exit B. But that wasn't the most impressive part. The same experiment was conducted in another laboratory, far from the original one, with the same results. No, on second thought, the results weren't really the same. The rats in this second experiment began the trials with significantly faster times than the first rats in the initial one. These rats weren't related to the others and had never even come in contact with them. And yet, they all easily found their way to exit A as though they already knew. What did it mean?
Are you suggesting something like telepathy? They were passing information to one another through some undetectable medium?
Ace looked skeptical. Santa snorted at him.
How the hell would I know? I'm not any kind of scientist. I don't know what made him do that. But I do know that story's true. And if you've got another explanation, I'd sure love to hear it.
Naja, es gibt ähnliche Tests, die tatsächlich gemacht wurden, die waren aber ein bisschen anders. Und da war es dann so, dass Ratten zum Beispiel einen Weg durch entsprechende Labyrinthe finden mussten. Da geht man aber davon aus, dass die Ratten einfach der Duftspur anderer Ratten gefolgt sind. Jetzt hier, ich glaube, dieses Experiment hat es in der Form nie gegeben, aber es passt halt zur, sagen wir mal, sehr paranormalen Story dieses Spiels.
Come on, let's get going. There's still a lot here we haven't checked out. And we gotta get the hell out of here before June passes out.
Without waiting for a response, he turned around and started walking. Junpei, however, wasn't quite ready to leave the topic alone.
Hey, wait. There's something I want to ask you.
What?
Santa stopped and turned around.
Why did they use that tank for the experiment?
Huh?
Well, I mean, it seems like you could conduct the same experiment without the water. They could have just used a dry box, you know? If they needed to motivate the rats to escape, they could have, I don't know, put some bait by exit B or something. I mean, do they really have to make it so the rats can drown?
Santa gave a grim bark of a laugh.
You know, the word emergency comes from the same root as the word emerge. You ever think about that?
Huh?
Well, an emergency is something urgent, often something dangerous. And to emerge means to sort of come out, or appear, or rise out of something else.
Naja, im Deutschen ist das Wort Emergency Notfall. Und to emerge, naja, ich weiß gar nicht, was da am besten die deutsche Übersetzung wäre. Ich habe schon mal von emergenten Eigenschaften gelesen oder gehört, aber trotzdem, da merkt man, das funktioniert im Englischen. Ich weiß nicht, wie es im japanischen Original ist, was da für Worte verwendet werden, aber naja, auch
So
egal.
what's going to emerge in an emergency? Inspiration.
Oh, jetzt kommt mein D&D-Hirn wieder. Oh, Inspiration. Sehr schön. Ich habe Vorteil auf den nächsten Wurf. Nee, nicht ganz, aber ihr wisst, wie ich es meine.
Inspiration?
Yeah. Think about it. When the chips are down, either you crack or your mind focuses and pulls up what you need.
So in an emergency, your real potential emerges. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's why the rats had to drown. They had to be in danger. There had to be an emergency for inspiration to emerge.
Oh.
Junpei suddenly felt cold. The back of his head was aching and his stomach felt strange. So, dann müssen wir runter. Hoppla, Catwalk. Wo ging's denn nochmal? War das einfach wieder durch A? Ja. Und wir sind wieder unten. Hier gab es dann doch... Ist das dann da hinten? Ah, wir können hier noch hin. Was haben wir denn hier? Look, Ace. It's some kind of snowman's secret meeting. Those are just bags full of sand. You use them as counterweight when you're lifting something with a pulley system. Man, you're too serious. There's a pair of wooden boxes here. There's nothing in them. Ah, okay. Ach, wir können auch hier hoch. Was haben wir denn hier? What is this? Given its placement, this must unlock the door to the left. There's a weird indentation on the top of this thing. You think that means you have to insert something here? Yes, I would imagine so. There's a thick iron door blocking our way. You think this is... Yes. It looks like the exit. It looks like this door slides up into the ceiling. Tja. Okay. Na, hier ist wieder das Silberrad. Dann müssen wir aber auch noch irgendwo anders weiterkommen. Looks like a conveyor belt made for carrying coal. And over on the right... Ach, jetzt hier ist das Ding. Control Panel for something. Und schauen wir doch mal, was wir hier haben. Some kind of machine. Maybe a control panel? Hier hatten wir doch was. Maybe the soul is where the control panel goes. Well, there's only one way to find out. In you go. Dude, you did it. Everything looks alright. Okay, but what do we do now? Why don't you press the button next to it? The orange one? Yes. Alright, I'll do that. Pushing. Sweet! All sorts of lights are lighting up on this thing. And, oh yes, I think I just heard something turn on. Oh! What's that? What happened? Junpei, look, the conveyor belt's moving. The conveyor belt? Well, I guess it's done moving now. There's still a bunch of coal on the belt, though. It looks like a bunch of it got dumped off the end of the belt into that wooden box where we found the control panel. Coal. Coal, huh? Since the belt started moving, it's transported quite a bit of coal. If all that drops off the left end of the belt right into the wooden box. Some box filled with coal. Wooden box full of coal. Guess there's really only one thing we can do with this stuff. Dann drehen wir uns doch mal um. Huge oven for the spoiler. There are 3 open areas in it. Each of the open areas has a gear in it. Ja, gut. Moment. Irgendwie konnte man sich doch... Warum kann ich mir das nicht... Ah, hier. This is where the coal goes. Or would go if all these things hadn't rusted shut. Es gab doch eins, wo wir was machen konnten. Ach, hier. There's a hole that'll let us put coal into the furnace. Maybe if we can get some coal in there and set it on fire. Okay, let's do it. Alright, that's the last of it. No coal left in the wooden box. And nothing. Great. Well, I guess I should have expected that. Why would just throwing coal into a cold furnace do anything? Oh well, a man can dream. Junpei, explain it to me again. You're planning to stoke the furnace with coal, which will heat the water stored up there and make steam, which will then drive something else. Am I correct? In other words, you want to generate enough pressure with the steam to power the turbine. And drive the steam engine, right? Yeah, I guess that's the gist of it. Well, in that case, this isn't enough coal. This furnace is enormous. So we're gonna need a whole hell of a lot more coal than this. Very well then, if the 3 of us work together, then we should manage to fill it much faster. I want to help too. Man, I totally didn't even see her walk up. Are you feeling up to that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. You look like you're one stiff breeze away from falling over, June. I think you'd better rest some more, alright?
But
No arguing. You need your rest. So you just stay there. We'll handle this.
Okay. I understand.
Alright, time for some manly work. Let's get this coal into those furnaces. Ja, krasseste Männerarbeit hier. Kohle schaufeln. Man, this is a lot of work. Alright, I think this should be sufficient. Alright, now we just gotta light it. Junpei, hand me your matches. What makes you think I have matches? I see. Then how are we gonna light it? Perhaps there's a device nearby that will allow us to remotely ignite the coal. Let's take a look, shall we? Some sort of ignition device, huh? Aber jetzt mal kurz, was das Thema Männerarbeit angeht. Da habe ich jetzt was Interessantes gesehen. Es gibt sehr viele Leute, die behaupten so, oder die sagen, wo sind eigentlich die ganzen richtigen Männer hin? Wo ich mich dann immer frage, okay, erstmal, warum wollen Männer unbedingt echte Kerle sehen? Aber ist eine andere Geschichte. Ich gehe nochmal hier hin. Kann man hier noch irgendwas mitmachen? This is the control panel for the conveyor belt. It's covered in lights. Kann ich auch nichts mehr mitmachen. Okay. Können wir denn... Ah, Moment. Hier, genau. Worauf ich noch hinaus wollte. Viele beschweren sich, es gäbe keine richtig maskulinen Männer mehr. Das Lustige ist, das ist ähnlich alt wie die Zivilisation der Menschheit selbst. Also das ist, finde ich, sehr lustig, weil selbst im alten Griechenland, zumindest habe ich das irgendwo so am Rande mal mitbekommen, ob das genau hundertprozentig stimmt, weiß ich nicht, aber es passt sehr gut zu dem, was die Griechen so gesagt haben. Nämlich, dass Männer sich schon wie Frauen verhalten, seit sie diese weiche Kleidung der Perser adaptiert hätten. Das fand ich halt auch schon klasse. Einfach diese Grundidee. Ich habe das Gefühl, Männer sind seit Ewigkeiten an dem Punkt, wo sie denken, oh Gott, es gibt keine richtigen Kerle mehr und was passiert und alle werden verweichlicht und so weiter und so fort. Ist das irgendwie ein Zivilisationsproblem? Ich weiß es nicht. Aber guck mal, die Lichter hier sind jetzt gelb. Hey. Is this? I think it might be. It probably is. I think this is how we might ignite the furnace. That means that if we move that thing down... Alright, let's do it. Here we go. Hey Junpei, Ace, look at this. There's big gears turning under the boiler there. Tja, die kennen wir doch. Und schau mal einer an. The gears. They're spinning. What the hell are you guys waiting for? Let's start looking. Was haben wir denn hier? Gold disc. The gold disc. It has a number of lines engraved on it. I can make out 3 colors here. Red, blue and black. I wonder what they mean. So, jetzt hier bitte einmal zu Bronze. Bronze disc. The bronze disc. It has a bunch of lines on it in 3 different colors. Red, blue and black. Was könnte damit gewollt sein? Da, wir müssen doch irgendwie auch da hin. Ach, ich muss eins weiter vor. Okay. Zack. The silver disc. It has a bunch of lines on it, but the red ones really stand out, right? The red ones, huh? Tja, und wenn wir jetzt hier hochgehen, hatten wir doch was. It looks like this thing unlocks the door. There's a depression here that looks like it's the outline of 3 circles laid on top of each other in a triangle. Maybe if you put those 3 discs we found into this thing. Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's stick them in. Huh? That's odd. Nothing's happening. Maybe you're, I don't know, putting them in the wrong places? Perhaps if you have them facing in the wrong directions. Perhaps you should rotate the discs to make some of the lines connect to one another. Well, no harm in trying. Introductions for operation. When the disc is pressed, it will rotate a certain amount. When the white arrow is pressed, the discs are switched. Please note, when the discs are switched, the angles for the discs are reset. So, wir sehen erstmal, die Ränder müssen passen. Das heißt, wir müssen das einmal so tauschen. Das Silber hier oben ist Gold hier unten und Bronze hier an der Seite. Und jetzt machen wir es doch mal so, dass das jeweils in die Mitte kommt. Das sieht doch nach was aus. The red lines on these discs. I think maybe I can make a star polygon with these. Tja, und wir haben es geschafft. Aber was ich eben meinte mit diesem, das kriegt man ja auch immer wieder mit, irgendwie diese selbsternannten Alphas.
The door's open.
Aber gut, ich denke, hier machen wir dann, wobei ich unterbreche das erstmal noch. Ich sage hier noch ein bisschen weiter was dazu, diese selbsternannten Alphas. Mal also davon abgesehen, dass es keine Alphas bei Männern gibt, oder bei Menschen generell nicht. Es ist so bescheuert, diese Grundidee einfach. Das finde ich ja so bescheuert. Allein diese Idee des Alpha-Männchens. Wisst ihr, wo die herkommt? Die basiert auf einer fehlerhaften Studie zu Wölfen in Gefangenschaft, wenn ich mich recht erinnere. Da wurde nämlich fehlinterpretiert, dass sich gewisse Tiere einem anderen unterwerfen. Aus dem Grund, dass das wohl stärker ist oder sowas. Nein, das waren jüngere Tiere und das Tier, dem die sich unterworfen haben, war einfach deren Mutter. Die war in dem Sinne nicht Alpha, die war einfach eine Führungsperson wegen höherem Alter und mehr Erfahrung. Es ist so bescheuert einfach. Das ist es halt, Wölfe in freier Wildbahn haben nicht solche Rangordnungen. Und das dann auch noch auf Menschen zu übertragen, ist absoluter Schwachsinn. Und ja, es gibt natürlich sowas wie sozialen Status. Der kann sich aber je nach Situation sehr, sehr stark ändern. Und das wollen diese ganzen angeblichen Alphas dann auch nicht hören. Wenn man denen dann sagt, hör mal, wenn man es mal ganz genau nimmt, also der Typ, der im Fitnessstudio, weil er die krassesten Hanteln stemmen kann, den höchsten Status hat, der hat das jetzt nicht beim Bewerbungsgespräch in der Bank. Und von daher, je nach Situation ist der soziale Status immer ziemlich anders. Und vor allem, es gibt nur eine einzige Sache, die in den allermeisten Fällen den sozialen Status nach oben hebt, und das ist nicht irgendwie Muskelmasse oder sowas, sondern das ist Geld. Und das ist auch was, wo wir in unserer Gesellschaft einfach sehr viel dran messen, nach dem Motto, jemand, der Geld hat, ist erfolgreich. Wenn man dann bedenkt, dass aber eigentlich nur die Leute Geld haben, die direkt mit Geld arbeiten, also zumindest das sind die Leute, die wirklich viel Geld verdienen, also Marketingleute zum Beispiel, oder Leute, die eben bei Investmentbanken und so weiter arbeiten, das finde ich so bescheuert. Zum Beispiel auch, wenn man bei Firmen reinguckt, die Forschungs- oder Entwicklungsarbeit machen, dass deren Forscher und Entwickler eigentlich die Grundlage liefern, damit dann nachher irgendwelche Marketing-Fuzis damit das Geld ranholen können. Da finde ich es dann sehr, sehr lustig, dass dann der Marketing-Fuzzi, wer weiß wie viel Geld bekommt, weil er bringt der Firma ja Geld ein, die anderen kosten ja nur. Es ist so ein Schwachsinn einfach. Das ist halt so das Bescheuerte. Dann wird plötzlich der tatsächlich die richtige Arbeit reinsteckt, gar nicht gewürdigt. Und das sage ich jetzt nicht aus einer Position, dass ich selber irgendwie gerade Forscher oder Entwickler wäre. Nein, bin ich nicht. Aber ich kriege es halt mit und da denke ich mir halt auch, das ist absoluter Schwachsinn. Aber ja, zurück zu der ganzen Alpha-Mail, was auch immer Sache. Da gibt es dann ja auch einige Leute, die sich dann beschwert haben, dass zum Beispiel Andrew Tate auf Twitter gesperrt wurde. Boah, ganz im Ernst. Oder auch auf anderen Plattformen. Warum hat der Typ Fanboys? Gut, ich verstehe es schon irgendwie, weil, wenn man bedenkt, wie hat man Männlichkeit denn immer definiert? Männlich war ja immer so der Versorger, der Beschützer, der, was weiß ich, der Ritter in strahlender Rüstung, etc. Das Problem ist, für diese Leute jetzt, die versuchen dann, sich sehr stark über Männlichkeit zu definieren, bisher ist es immer, okay, die Männlichkeit war immer was in Relation zum Weiblichen und immer eine abgegrenzte Sache vom Weiblichen. Jetzt ist das Problem, Frauen dringen natürlich auch wegen Emanzipation und sowas immer mehr in Männerdomänen vor. Viele Sachen, die früher männlich dominiert waren, wie zum Beispiel alleine schon die Versorgung, die sind jetzt halt auch weiblich. Es ist nun mal so. Und das finde ich dann teilweise echt bescheuert, wie da Leute dann drauf reagieren, dass dann Leute meinen, okay, jetzt muss man irgendwie finden, was ist denn überhaupt männlich? Und ich denke mir, ist doch scheißegal. Genauso wie die Sache mit Weiblichkeit. Ich finde, das sind so Konzepte, die sind völlig überbewertet. Und das sage ich jetzt nicht aus einer Perspektive von irgendjemandem, der bisexuell wäre oder so. Bin ich nicht. Was ich meine, ist halt einfach nur diese Prinzipien von wegen, der eine muss männlich, der andere weiblich sein. Und was dann als männlich oder weiblich gilt, das ist doch völlig wurscht. Aber gut, muss ich jetzt auch nicht weiter ins Detail gehen. Es ist halt einfach nur, ich verstehe es halt persönlich nicht. Dass man die ganze Zeit versucht, sich dann so speziell unter den Männern, dass man halt so sagt, man versucht diese Männlichkeit mehr als eine Abgrenzung zum Weiblichen zu handhaben, während halt bei Frauen das Annehmen von typisch männlichen Eigenarten halt eher eine Art von Empowerment ist. Andersherum sehe ich das aber nicht, dass Männer tatsächlich sagen, okay, ich nehme jetzt was Weibliches an und betrachte das für mich als ein Empowerment. Ich könnte das sogar sehr gut nachvollziehen, weil ich finde persönlich so das Konzept von Männlichkeit eher einengend als irgendwas anderes, aber ja gut. Am Ende des Tages bin ich halt trotzdem privilegierter weißer Cis-Dude, also ist auch wurscht. Nur ich verstehe persönlich halt nicht, warum für viele Leute dann sowas wie Männlichkeit einfach so einen riesigen Stellenwert hat. Und was es denen gibt, das verstehe ich halt nicht. Nach dem Motto, ich bin mehr Mann als du oder wie? Was ist das Besondere daran? Was macht das denn aus? Ich bin dafür, einfach mal Rollenverständnisse so von Männern und Frauen mal komplett über den Haufen zu werfen. Scheiß drauf, sollen Leute sich verhalten, wie sie wollen, aber nee, dann ist es ja, sobald du zum Beispiel als Mann sagst, hör mal, ich persönlich sehe das ja anders, dann bist du ja Beta, Soy Boy, was auch immer, Kack. Und ich denke mir, nein. Also, das ist auch so richtig hirnrissig. Also, wenn man mal richtig ekelhaftes Zeug sehen will, einfach mal so in die Manosphäre abtauchen. Und man fragt sich wirklich, okay, haben die Männerhasser doch recht? Ich sage nein, aber trotzdem. Oh, manche Leute sind einfach so durch. Auch schon, was ich jetzt ein paar Mal schon gekriegt habe von einem bestimmten Account unter meinen Podcast-Folgen zu den League of Legends Champions, dass ich da bei manchen Sachen eben Dinge einbaue, wie zum Beispiel das Ganze mal durch eine feministische Linse zu betrachten. Warum? Weil ich es interessant finde. Und weil ich finde, dass es bei manchen Charakteren sich durchaus anbietet. Zum Beispiel bei Senna, das Thema Fridging, also nach dem Motto, eine Frau wird eigentlich nur als Plot-Device verwendet, um einen Mann in seiner Story zu motivieren und hat vorher überhaupt keinen Charakter. Das ist Fridging. Das war was ich kritisiert habe. Das war bei Senna ja am Anfang der Geschichte so. Und am Ende des Tages war es halt, dass dann auch jemand meinte, so von wegen unnötige Feminismus-Einbindung, check. Und ich dachte mir, warum unnötig? Was ist daran unnötig? Ist doch interessant, wenn Leute sowas erfahren. Dass es sowas gibt und dass zum Beispiel auch heute immer noch in Medien so ein Ungleichgewicht da ist. Insbesondere, dass sowas mit Männern fast nie passiert. Und wenn ein Mann zum Beispiel stirbt, um eine andere Person anzutreiben, eine Charakterentwicklung herbeizuführen, etc., dann hat dieser Mann meistens vorher eine anständige Charakterisierung gehabt. Bei einer Fridged Wife hat man das nicht. Dann unter einem anderen Video stand was von wegen so, war ein gutes Video, bis die woke Grütze kam und sowas. Und ich denke mir halt, was soll der Scheiß? Ganz ehrlich. Warum regt man sich darüber auf? Warum meint man das unter ein Video dann auch schreiben zu müssen? Das ist was ich nicht verstehe, weil es ist ja nicht so, dass ich irgendwas Gesellschaftszersetzendes machen würde, wo man dann sagen würde, hey, hör mal, das geht so aber nicht. Sondern nee, da sagt einfach nur einer, fand ich scheiße. Und warum? Weil es links ist. Ja, sorry, ich bin eine linke Socke. Fertig. So läuft das halt. Ich schau mal kurz, sind wir jetzt eigentlich hier im Flowchart schon? Ja, wir sind wieder in der Novel-Section. Perfekt. Denn auch dadurch, dass jetzt keine Zuschauer da sind, ich denke, ich werde das Ganze dann hier schon mal beenden, weil es ist dann auch ein bisschen doof, wenn ich mit niemandem interagieren kann und einfach nur mit mir selber rede. Gut, mache ich sonst in meinen Folgen ja auch gerne, aber hierbei finde ich es immer ganz nett, wenn Leute da sind. Dann habe ich heute einfach nur den einen Escape Room gemacht, bisschen vorher die Sache mit Snake. Da haben wir jetzt immer ein bisschen was herausgefunden. Oder? Hehe. Da könnt ihr gerne, wenn ihr das euch angeguckt habt, mal in die Kommentare schreiben, was ihr vielleicht für Vermutungen habt. Wer könnte Snake umgebracht haben? So in Zusammenarbeit zum Beispiel. Wer könnte Zero sein, wenn Zero einer von der Truppe ist? Und naja, ist euch vielleicht eine Kleinigkeit aufgefallen, die, ich will nicht sagen unpassend ist, sondern bei der man vielleicht ein bisschen nachdenklich werden könnte? Schreibt es gerne in die Kommentare. Ansonsten lasst gerne ein Däumchen da, wenn es euch gefallen hat und so weiter. Wir sehen uns dann beim nächsten Mal. Ich schaue mal, ob ich im Laufe des Wochenendes dann wieder was streame. Es wird rechtzeitig angekündigt, also geplant etc. Ich glaube, ich sollte auch mal auf Twitter dann ein bisschen mehr. Na egal. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Cheerio.